couldn't be here in person, but would be here. So
Yeah, this is Dave. Can you folks hear me?
we can.
Yes.
Good. I've got a picture of the city of Lakes and Parks on the screen, but I can hear you folks, so
Okay.
I'm assuming it's working both ways. Yeah, I'm here via audio and video this time.
Wonderful.
Who all's in the room? Do we have a full complement?
We do.
Well,
Hey, David. We are missing
Morning.
Julie and Patrick this morning.
Okay. And do we know if they're coming or not?
Julie has told me she's not going to be in attendance today, but I haven't heard anything from Patrick.
Okay. We'll give him one more minute then, okay?
Sounds good to me.
He's not far away. He's just downstairs, isn't he?
You know, I think he's now officed in Chanhassen.
Oh.
Otherwise, I
very
would say,
good.
yeah, I could go run and knock on the door.
Stop your
Hey,
foot.
I might have made a bad assumption. I was assuming that these meetings were an hour in length. Is that normal, or did I make a mistake there?
Yeah, they're about an hour. Does the WebEx say a little bit longer?
It doesn't say, and
Okay.
I was based on our last meeting. I just assumed it was an hour. You know, most meetings are, but just
Yep.
wanted to check.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
that's great.
if they go a little bit shorter, that's good. But I also want to make sure that you guys get out of here at a good time and can go about your day. So if there are items, if we have to table something, we can table something to next meeting.
very good.
Okay, great, because it's a full agenda. There's lots of interesting things here. So, but we'll try to be observant and careful to go for the hour. So can we go ahead and call the meeting to order?
Feel free, Chair.
Great. Meeting's called to order. Let me do the
Comes
roll
Patrick.
call here. Oh, good. Susan, Bill. Susan, are you here?
Present.
Myself, Dan Elliott.
Chair, Dan is absent this morning, but Patrick
Dan
just
is-
arrived.
Hello.
Great. Hi, Patrick. Martha Helgerson.
Yeah.
Welcome. Julie is absent, you said. Jan Jacobson.
Present?
Jan, welcome. Patrick, welcome. And Jack Luft. Is Jack
Hello.
here? I'm sorry, is it L-O-O?
L-O-O, yes. We say
Oh,
loaf.
sorry. Loft. Okay, great. And Nancy Swanson.
Here.
Great. Nice to have everybody with us this morning. The first item on the agenda is always a standing item where people can offer petitions, proclamations, complaints, or suggestions. It's an opportunity for anyone to report on items that you've received or heard from community members, friends, and neighbors in Victoria. It also provides an opportunity to report items that are not on the agenda. With that, does any of the committee members have anything to report this morning? Okay, how about staff? Alyssa, anything from you?
Chair, I do have a few city news items that I'd just like to share with the committee this morning, just to get them on their radar. First is the compost site in Victoria, so residents can drop off compost waste at our collection site, which is the old public workshop, which is across the street from Yankee Brewery. Last year or previous years, we've only had 1 or 2 weekends open for residents to do that. This year, we're actually going to have every weekend in the month of May open for people to drop off their compost, and it's going to be open the daylight hours, anywhere from, sunrise to sunset. Another item I have for you is the farmers market. Started last year in 2020, but it's going to be brought back again in the Yankee Brewery parking lot. So you're going to get really familiar with that part of town quickly this spring. And then that is going to start July 1st. So mark that in your
Will that be on
calendars.
Thursdays again?
It will be, same days. Yep.
And I see the
Alyssa?
car show is going to be on again. I just saw the
And
sign downstairs.
yeah,
Oh,
I just saw the magnets outside of city offices. So if you want to pick up a car show magnet, they are having them again this year. This is hosted by the Victoria Business Association. And I believe they're having them the same times and days of the week. So it would be the second Wednesday and the fourth Wednesday. So that will be downtown, 5 to 8 p.m. So I think you can check out their Facebook page. Otherwise, we have flyers and magnets for people to pick up on their way out.
Excuse me, I don't know if this could come later, but before I forget, I know last year when they had a couple times at the compost site, they needed volunteers. Is that the case again this year?
Not this year. We're doing a little bit differently, which
Okay.
allows us to have those more days, and then we actually don't need to rely on volunteers. But great question.
What group is this again?
The Victoria Business Association that runs this. It's similar to a chamber.
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, so we do have the Southwest Area Chamber
Yeah, I
that's
knew
in
that.
town, and they actually help us with the farmers market. But then there is a Victoria Business Association that's kind of for the downtown businesses in Victoria.
And what are they having? They're having,
It's a car show. So what they do is they sponsor a car show annually. There's concerts that are going to be in the park. People bring their cars. Part of the streets will be closed, and people can just kind of open streets, walk around, go to the businesses, get a bite to eat, sit on the park. It's a pretty nice event. Unfortunately, it was canceled last year.
are those schedules out yet? Are those schedules set yet?
Yeah, so they have them on these magnets and then flyers, and then I believe it's on their Facebook page on the specific dates. So I can show you where those magnets are. They're going to be right outside the door. We're actually right next to the
And the
staircase.
Facebook page is what? Just Victoria Business?
It is, let me read this, Discover Victoria Classic Car Night.
Okay, it's not listed under the Business Association then.
Nope, it would be that Discover Victoria Classic Car Night, yep. Yep. And then the last one I have on here is Showcase Victoria. So it's kind of a way for residents to take photos of their community, those 14 lakes that we have, those 31 parks, Showcase Victoria, and then it's a photography contest. So you can submit your photographs to the city, and then they do some sort of photography contest. And then I think we have a first place, second place, third place, and then some sort of prize that goes along with the winners. So if you're like to take photographs, or if you see something that you'd like to submit, please feel free to check out the city or the city website, that's ci.victoria.mn.us, and submit your photo. And Chair, that is all I have here. So feel free to move on to the next
Great.
part of the agenda.
Thank you, Alyssa. The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from April 5?
Chair, I do have to make one note. I was informed that I do have Jack as present at the last meeting, and he was absent, so I'm just going to amend that. So if we could have a motion to approve the last meeting minutes with that amendment, that would be
Okay,
great.
so
One other-
noted.
One other thing, I believe I was the one that made the motion for selecting Nancy as the co-chair, or vice chair. The reason I remember is because I couldn't remember her name when I wanted to select her.
Okay, so without objection, we'll take that as a correction to the minutes, those
That
two
would work.
corrections?
Yep, I will definitely
Okay.
add those.
Or that was electing Susan, excuse me.
Yep. So who would like to move to approve the minutes?
I so move. This is Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy. Is there a second?
Susan Bill seconds.
Susan, thank you. Let's put the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Good work. We're making progress. We're down to old business now, and there's no old business items, so we'll move to new business. Hopefully next week we'll have some old business, or next meeting. And the first item on the agenda here is the review of the AARP Livability Index, and we're going to turn the floor over to Alyssa to cover this for us.
Oh, Alyssa, might I interrupt, because this might be old business. We didn't meet Martha last time. Could we take a moment for Martha to introduce herself?
Oh,
Yeah, thank you. Martha, you're the only new person here this time?
Well, and we met Jack when we all interviewed, but we haven't met Martha.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Take your mask on.
Oh, take my mask. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, it's better. Okay, I've lived in Victoria for 22 years now. And I'm really excited that we have this group. You can see that I'm invested in it because the gray hair tells you that. And I really enjoyed this living here in this community, watching it grow by leaps and bounds. So I think we have a lot of opportunity in this group to be representative for people who have lived here a long time and also be mindful of the new people coming in. You know, it's kind of scary to an oldster like me to see seniors now described as 50 years old all through the spectrum. So that just gives this group a bit more responsibility in being aware of the differences that those demographics from one end to the other are going to ask of us or actually require from us. I'm not sure what exactly more I can tell you. I've been recently widowed, unfortunately. So, so there's that to get used to. But so it's going well. I'm sorry I keep putting this thing down or up. So anything else I can tell you about myself that you're interested? I'm not sure what you're looking for.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. You know, it's a good reminder that we're all going through major adjustments right now, and hopefully we can represent the whole community here, but also be supportive of one another. So welcome. We're glad to have you part of the group.
Okay, thank you.
Let's turn now to Alyssa about the AARP Livability Index.
And thank you, Nancy, for bringing that up. That was great. Nice to officially meet you, Martha. All right. So as you saw in the staff report, the AARP Livability Index is essentially a tool created by the AARP Public Policy Institute to measure neighborhoods and communities across the United States for their services and amenities for people of all ages. They do really specify it's an all-age friendly livability index, but really targeting policies related to older adults. And as you said, Martha, it's crazy to think about the 55 plus. That's a large span, but that is what they define it as. So I bring this just to the committee this morning because I believe that it might be a helpful tool and a way to jumpstart conversation when we start talking about livability and we start gathering ideas and how we can make Victoria a better place and to serve all of our residents. Later this morning, we're going to be discussing our annual work plan, and I thought this also might be a good way to see how Victoria compares to other cities in the area, or just kind of how the AARP defines livability. Now, that being said, I do want to preface that the index here is a little bit, it's not an accurate depiction of Victoria or any cities on their ability to serve their residents. The categories and the items listed in the index are based from an AARP survey that was conducted based on personal preferences. So some people might find housing more important, where others might find, being able to volunteer in community service more important. So it's definitely skewed on personal preference, just something to note there. But with that, we can dive in here. As you see on the screen, Victoria is scored at a 59 out of 100. Also on the screen, and no, these are not a typo, Victoria is exactly the same score as the rest of Carver County and the state of Minnesota. But if we break down that index, they have several categories. We have housing, neighborhood, transportation, environment, health, engagement, opportunity. So when we break those down, you can see that we vary compared to the state and to Carver County. And our just by reading off the list here, for housing, we're at 33 out of 100. For neighborhood, we're at 53, 48 for transportation, 56 for environment, 73 for health, 73 for engagement, and then 76 for opportunity. But we're going to break these down in just a second here. And just to note, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me, or if you have any comments, feel free to do the same. But if we look at housing, so AARP defines housing by looking at a city's housing stock, by looking at the diversity of those houses or those units. It looks at affordability, looking at price ranges, seeing that there's a healthy range of homes available at different price points. And then I'm trying to think of what else they might have on there. Well, anyway, so we are lower than the county and the state on our score at that 33 out of 100, like I mentioned before. Since our last score, we have had a few updates that might have raised our score a little bit. First, in 2020, Council renamed our Affordable Housing Fund to Senior Affordable Housing Fund to really help kick off some projects dedicated to senior housing. And then we've also welcomed the Bethesda Cornerstone Village into our community since the last time this index was updated. So I believe our score might be a little bit higher as we look at 2021. Also, another good data set to draw from if we talk about housing is the Metropolitan Council city profile for Victoria. The profile includes a series set of data that I thought might be good to draw attention to. Specifically the affordable housing production survey that was conducted until 2018 by the Met Council. Based on that number, they take the number of permits that was issued at the City of Victoria and then looks at how many units they define as affordable. What the Met Council defines as affordable, I'm not 100% sure, and they don't clearly list that on the survey, so I couldn't quite tell you exactly what this means, but I thought I would just bring that to your attention that in 2016, we added 117 affordable units, and then if you just keep looking at the slideshow, we have 198 units in 2017, plus 81 rental units, and then in 2018, we had 170 units added. So.
Excuse me, is there any way to find a breakdown of how they define affordable housing, which is probably $1 million question, but when I think of affordable housing and, I think of maybe subsidized or HUD or, Section 8, whatever. But this looks like, so affordable housing could be individual as well as multi.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and it is really the $1 million question that you're asking there, and people have been racking their heads around it really for a long time, but the conversation's been brought up a lot recently just on what affordable means. I know that people have guesstimated or kind of have stuck to that $300,000 mark for just units. I don't know about if you talk about rental units or condos or those multifamily homes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. Yes, Jan.
No, I was just regarding the housing. I've been doing a lot of research on that. And a lot of people I know want their garages near them. They don't want to go down 4 floors. And also they're very attracted to rental. They've sold their home, they have a nest egg, but why would they want to put out $500,000 on a postage stamp lot with 1,600 square feet? Which is not desirable to me as far as long term. But the rental is, if I can be renting, I can stay there as long as I want, or I can move on. And the rentals at Bethesda, especially the villas, have gone immediately. So I think there needs to be something, look at that. Also, the builders that are building these villas, I've looked at quite a few sections of those, and it seems that they're putting the villas on a peripheral piece of land, which is fine, but they put them on a postage stamp because the villa's smaller, it's a little postage stamp lot. But they're charging almost as much as the 2-story homes that have larger lots. So there seems to be a little money to be made there if they can squeeze them together, which to me is not desirable. So I don't know, development probably needs to look at how they're really squeezing these together. And more rentals might be advantage.
Yeah, those are great points. So the developers, unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but they're the ones that choose their product. They get their piece of land. There's only so much a city can ask for out of somebody that, owns their piece of land on what they want to build or do to it. But on that same note, that is something that I think this group could definitely take a look at, is what the city, if we're looking at being better stewards to our 55-plus community, and if we want to have people live here their whole entire lives, really have that life cycle housing, I think when we take a look at the work plan, when we start having those discussions, we can definitely make that a 2021 priority for us, is really to analyze. And I think another thing to be said about it is really, what do people want? And I think this is where this group could really shed some light on that, especially after COVID-19. I think that there might be some differences on what people are looking for when it comes to housing. So, yes.
A lot of the seniors do not want two-story. They don't want to climb a lot of steps. And so these one-level little houses are perfect. If they can have a walkout basement, it's even better. But, yeah, I'd
So
like to.
is it within the scope of this committee to make a recommendation to the city council that they establish some guidelines or try to encourage more of that type of housing when there's a new development project that comes in for approval?
I would have to check on if there's something that we could do. I know Park and Recreation, they're ones to take a look at the parks when a new development comes in. Planning Commission takes a look at new developments based on planning and zoning, and they really look at kind of what we're talking about here. But what we could do, I know they're going to be looking at their residential codes and kind of just doing a little bit of an update, but we could definitely see if they'd be interested in doing a joint meeting where we come to one of their planning commission meetings and provide them feedback, or maybe that we have a conversation about the residential zoning code here, and then we provide recommendation to the senior advisor, or to the planning commission meeting when they start having those conversations.
Sure. Good point.
Is the city council, aren't they, or did they develop their comprehensive plan for the next 2 years, or are they in the process of
They
doing that?
do have a 2040 comprehensive plan, which is done with the Met Council, but we do have a strategic plan, which it was adopted on April 12th, and it was in the agenda packet, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, yep,
Because I was wondering if housing, if that was, yeah.
yep, for sure.
you.
Continuing to speak about housing, another great data set to look at is what households experiencing house burden. House burden is, at least the definition, means if you are spending 30% or more of your income on housing-related needs. So that could go into mortgage or rent, any utilities related to housing. It goes into your property taxes, or anything else that is an expense that allows you to stay in shelter of the home of your choice. So just on that side, 12% of all households in Victoria experiencing house burden from 2015 to 2019. That's what we have for our statistic here. And that's quite a bit less than the Twin Cities metropolitan area. I think they're at 27% of all households being house burden. And then for Carver County, slightly higher at 20% of homes being house burden.
And that's all ages. There's no breakdown by age category.
Yep, it's just all homes. All right, going on to neighborhood and the livability index. For neighborhood, they really look at two important qualities: access and convenience. Do residents have the ability to find jobs? Are they close to and accessible to grocery stores? Ability to make healthy food choices? Do they have access to parks, pharmacies, libraries, et cetera there? And then we're alongside the Carver County and state index scores. Some updates that might have affected our score as of late is the farmers market, which started in 2020, which we talked about earlier. And then I believe they haven't updated the neighborhood index since 2014. And since that time, we do have the Victoria Library downstairs, as well as the pickup pop-up location at the Victoria Rec Center, which is one of my favorites. So thanks, Patrick.
Well, a number of the residents at Bethesda have expressed they really enjoy the walking paths, the space and the walking paths they can walk, and the neighborhoods that are not so squeezed. I mean, there's lawns, there's flowers. It's very enjoyable. The other thing, as far as neighborhood convenience, unfortunately, Victoria doesn't have a little corner store. you know, we don't have a little, I can't run down here and get a half a pint of whipping cream or something, or a box of Band-Aids. Or even an area where I could invite friends for a cup of coffee. I've researched Chaska's huge complex and their lodge. I've researched Chanhassen. And of course, they're way ahead of us and we're just starting. But the seniors have no place really to congregate.
That is
As far as a cup of coffee. Now, you go to the little towns and they've got the local cafe. They're in there having breakfast or they're having their gatherings of coffee in the morning. I don't find that here.
That's good to know. That is really great feedback, and I look forward. I think that's the best thing about that group is to hearing those things because I am not privy to that. That's just something that's not in our, and I think that just goes for all of us. We just sometimes have gaps, but that's great.
Well, just as a side note, I have off and on through the years, I'm aware of a restaurant called Carol's up in Blaine. Carol's is a homemade, old-fashioned beef commercial restaurant, but it's all homemade. Fantastic cinnamon rolls, desserts, hot plates, and every senior citizen within the next 10 miles is there every day. So we could get Carol's to do a little corner diner here. We would have so much business you would not believe. That's just
Sounds
my
delicious.
preference, but it draws. It really does.
All right, the next is transportation, again, alongside Carver County and the state with this score here. Some recent updates is that the Minnesota state does allow cities to determine speed on local roadways. That was part of the last legislative session that they announced that. So we are going to see city council starting to look at speed limits in the city, trying to reduce some of those speeds or maybe or keep them the same. And so they're going to start doing that, but that is something that might raise our score a little bit on transportation. The other one is that the city now has a partnership with WeCab. WeCab is a nonprofit volunteer-based drive program to help people who have restricted mobility or just anyone in general get to the places they need to be, whether that's to doctor's appointments or maybe it is to go to Walgreens to pick up something or maybe it's to go get some groceries. So there is that service out there and the city does help pay for or subsidize some of those through grant funding.
I had a question on that. I want to go to the airport Memorial Weekend. I have to catch a plane. And I looked online, and of course, we've got Southwest Transit. Southwest does not go all the way to the airport. And WeCab is really not for that.
Yep, that is more of a
I didn't
local
see
program.
any other taxi services listed. Are there some that service this area?
That would be something I would have to look into. It's not something I know offhand, but that's good to know.
Okay.
I think there are some that do. I didn't Southwest. I thought they were doing airport drop-off, but I don't know how much Southwest operates on weekends, or sometimes you have to connect at Southwest at Transit Station in Eden Prairie.
Yeah, it would have to change buses. Yeah, right.
That's always a big concern, too, is how do you become aware of these possible facilities?
Absolutely.
They're there, they do advertise, but how do I get a hold of WeCab, for instance, if I'm just living in my little space?
And
That's a good point. I think this will come up later at the work plan when we talk about information sources. It's one of the items on the work plan and how people become informed about them, or things like Uber or Lyft and how to use them. So I think we'll get to that in a minute when we get to the work plan.
Absolutely, share. So environment, again, alongside Carver County and the state with this one, we do have some updates. I just want to note that one of the sources that AARP used is outdated. So Carver County is ranked one of the healthiest counties in the community. And then they did have something about a drinking water violation, but I did look and Carver County, through their source, has been updated. They haven't updated on the index yet, but Carver County has not received any drinking water violations, at least since 2019. So just, again, showing that this is on personal preference and it's not a 100% accurate depiction on a community's ability to serve this. So And then with health, for the next few, actually, the city ranks higher than the Carver County in-state score. The health score is based on the access to healthcare, having outdoor amenities, those trails, those parks, and then exercise opportunities. And then engagement. So engagement is based on the city's ability to foster civic interactions and to make residents feel welcomed and connected to each other. And then we do have some updates is that we hired a communications and public engagement manager, Kendra Gall, in 2020. So she's been doing great work on trying to revise our website, and I think this is kind of that opportunity that we can put some input into how we get information out there on services in the community. So, yeah. And then the last one, I believe, is opportunity, which is based on diversity, education, and then overall fiscal health of a city. At this time, is there any questions or thoughts? Otherwise, we can move on to the work plan.
I want to thank you for for including that. I don't know how many people actually clicked on the link and looked at it. I thought the whole thing was interesting, and I really appreciate your recap of it. It just kind of made you think and showed where we were at and where we can go.
Yeah, it's a great resource, and there's tons and tons of data sets that we could probably spend hours taking a look at, but I think this one really does do a great job at condensing and kind of putting things to scale. So,
Alyssa, when do they complete the livability index?
it actually varies, and it gets automatically updated based on individual sources. So if I pull up the index, and I believe I do have it up, if you can all see this, if I click on one of these, you can see, let's say we click on housing accessibility, and it says we're at 39% of units, and then it shows the median US ranking on that. It does a brief description on what it is, but then you click on that source button there. It will pull up exactly where the source came from in those dates, which is great. So you really see the factual information. So some of these are 2018. We do have some 2015s in here, 2017s, 2014s. So it definitely ranges based on those individual action items here.
It's a very nice benchmark for us, and hopefully we can review this a year from now and see what kind of progress or changes have been made. It's nice that you've included several of these items that have been recent additions in the city. If there are any other questions about this, let's move on to the next agenda item, which is the work plan. I think there's a lot of meat here and a lot of good information for us to talk about. So we'll turn it over to Alyssa to give the presentation.
Yeah, and I did mention this before we started the meeting, but if there is, we have 30 minutes left and this is a heavy item, there's a lot in here. It is just for discussion. We're not going to be adopting a work plan. What I'll plan on doing for this item is to gather your feedback, see where your thoughts are on some of these topic areas, and we'll come back to it at the next meeting, and I'll revise. And if we don't have enough time to finish it, we'll continue it on at the next meeting. So FYI on that, we don't have to rush and try and get everything done in 30 minutes. We do have, the ability to move this over or continue the conversation later. So the committee is an advisory committee, which really functions as the eyes and ears of the 55-plus community and kind of that representative of the community. So City Council is interested in hearing your thoughts. What are our strengths? What is the city's weaknesses? What are our service gaps? And then at times make some recommendations or for possible solutions on those services gaps or our weaknesses. And then based on that idea, I drafted a work plan, which is from 2021 to 2023. Again, that is a draft. The categories and action items are merely suggestions, and looking forward to receiving the committee's feedback on and input on each of these. So to help guide the work plan, I used the World Health Organization, the WHO's description of age-friendly communities and their recommendation topics areas. We have outdoor spaces, transportation, housing, civic engagement, communication, and supports. And then they have social participation and social isolation. I combined those two into one. So like I said, they have 8, and then in the work plan, I just put 7. But we can definitely talk about that and reintroduce the social isolation as itself, or we can do whatever, or skip it completely, whatever the committee finds best. So the first one listed on here, and I did print out the draft work plan, and it should be sitting in front of you, but just so everyone can take a look at it if you wish. But the outdoor spaces is what I have first. So people need to have the ability to have public spaces to indoors and out. Those green spaces to be able to seat and have a cup of coffee, make sure that they're accessible. So having elevators, 0-step entrances, staircases with railings that can be used and enjoyed by people of all ages, does not have to be just focused on the 55 plus. So the real question that they have for outdoor spaces is, does the natural and built environment help older people get around easily and safely in their community and encourage that active community participation? So for this, I had that proposed action item of enhance and improve public spaces for safety and quality of life and community access. And that could be something that could be falling underneath that is collaborate with the Park and Recreation Committee to improve accessibility and enjoyment of parks, making sure that we have enough benches, making sure that the sidewalks are well maintained, or maybe trying to incorporate some new equipment into some of the playgrounds that work best for grandparents to play around with their grandkids. Like, it could be a wide variety. So if there is any comments or additions or subtractions specifically to outdoor spaces, this is where I'd like to open the door to the committee and see what their thoughts are.
This is Nancy. I've told you all about my focus group neighborhood. And at our last cul-de-sac sit, as we were adjourning, one of the women walked up to me and said, "Now you make sure that your committee knows that within the Victoria city limits, the Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail is very ruddy for bicycle riders. And once we get out of the city, it gets better." And I said to her, "I will, but that sounds like a park and rec thing." So I find it interesting that you've already said this is something that we can often collaborate with Parks and Rec on.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% sure on who maintains this section of trail, if it is something the city does, or if it is specifically the Three Rivers Park District that owns that. But what I can do is I can definitely make note of that, and I can talk to our Park and Rec Director, Ann Mankey, and just see if she has that answer, and I can definitely let you know at the next meeting, because that's good to know. Yep.
This is Sue. I think we're fortunate. We have a number of parks, a number of trails, and I walk a lot of trails and even bike some. And maybe with the Park and Rec, our trails are very accessible to active older adults and to active people, but I often wonder, if you walk the trail, you can walk here all the way out to Highway 7 behind here. I wonder if we need more benches, or things like that to make some of our trails more enjoyable for people with mobility issues. They all seem to be pretty level and accessible that way, but some designated seating areas possibly might be a suggestion or something to explore.
Yeah, so the AARP, I'm going to always revert back to them. They're kind of my number one source at the moment. But I know that there is some guided walking audits that you can do. And if that is something of interest to the community, we can definitely start taking a look at what that would be like. And even if the committee would want to participate in kind of a walking audit in specific areas that they thought would be best, or we can definitely take a look at doing that. Mm-hmm.
This is Jan. I did find the map on the computer that showed what amenities were in what parks. Now, a lot of those I wouldn't use, but the thing I'm finding is that if I want to go walking in the Kerber Park area, I have to drive over there. And I don't know where I can park my car. It's all residential. I don't know if there's any parking lots around. And I'd love to walk that path.
Yeah, that's a great thought. Definitely another thing that we can look at and exploring is incorporating a parking lot map into that amenities map.
Yeah, if they would put parking where you can park your car to go to start a particular route.
It's a good idea. Hey, Alyssa, Park and Rec has plans, I know, to add new trails, one over where I live and along Bavaria. Would it be possible to get a presentation or information about what the plan is, where they'll be adding new trails and new enhancements like this?
Yeah, definitely. I know Ann Mankey, a Park and Rec Director, again, would definitely be interested. They do have a trail gap study that they completed and priority list for completing those trail gaps in the community and how they take a look at those. They're also doing a park similar thing where they're taking a look at the city's parks and analyzing where do we need parks, where do we need improvement. So yeah, we can take, or we can ask Park and Rec Director to kind of make that presentation for us. See Martha's hand raised.
Hi, Martha. It's been a little bit hard to understand from over here a lot of what's been mentioned, so I hope not to be repeating something, but going back to the parks and the trails, and there are parks and trails I've gone to that have little guideposts for exercising. They have little exercise areas, just simple little things that they remind people they can do at certain intervals along the path. And that might be something that's, interesting for people like, us older people who just like to go along. They're not, you're not going to be doing push-ups or anything like that. And I'm sorry to say that I can't even remember all of them, but it was remarkable that you have these little intervals that there was an activity of sorts that you could do. You didn't have to, but you could do. And there were also benches that were strategically located as well. So that, again, you could rest for a minute if you wanted to continue rather than turning around and going back. So that's just something to consider in the future.
Yeah. So just kind of a recap on the outdoor spaces for if the committee is interested in doing this as a category for an action item, would there be interest in doing, if I go back, that enhance and improve public spaces for safety, quality of life, and community access, and then underneath that, maybe we continue to add that collaborate with the committee, or the Park and Rec Committee to improve accessibility and enjoyment of city parks, and then we can add another about doing a walking audit to ensure that our trails are also safe and accessible.
Sounds good.
Another thing that I've noticed in other parks is they have you can get a card or go online and you can kind of participate in a walking exercise by logging miles. So they'll have like markers about how, if you've been on the trail this far, then you've walked X number of miles. Then you continue however far you go, and you record those things on your card. It's kind of like a fun participation thing for people. And at certain goals that you might set, you get a stamp or some kind of a congratulatory thing on your card or on your website if you're following it that way. So that's another motivator for people to use their walking experience as a goal-setting thing and increase it. It's kind of fun to do that. You're competing against yourself.
Awesome. Well, great feedback. Anything else related to outdoor spaces? All right. Transportation. So driving is not always the only way to get around. We do want to make sure that we have safe sidewalks, crossable streets, dedicated bike lanes or areas for bikers. Obviously, that benefits both drivers because it lowers congestion, but just to having that for safety for bikers so they enjoy that as well. And then public transit, that's another option. We unfortunately don't have the ability to really have that large infrastructure for public transportations similar to the inner cities. But there is ways to do that smaller thing, shuttles, taxi services, WeCab, those volunteer programs. So for transportation, the real question underneath this category is, can older adults or older persons travel where they want to go in the community conveniently and safely? And then a proposed action item for the committee's consideration would be, yes, I see a hand.
This is Jan. I would like a city map that I could print. I have a conglomeration of pieces of maps from Google for this whole Victoria City. The one that's on your site will not print out for me. And it should be a hard copy. I want to have it in my car.
Yep, that is definitely something to think about, for sure. So for proposed action items for transportation, I have promote affordable transportation options and then ensure that transportation system is accessible. For that, that first one, the promote affordable transportation options, is kind of like, Jack, what you mentioned. They're making sure that we create that awareness for programs that are out there, whether it's WeCab or what, Southwest Transit or what other type of programs that might be out there. Maybe like you said, Chair, how to use Uber, how do you get in contact with Lyft? What are those other programs that are out there? So that was the first one that I had on there, is create awareness of programs. The next one was that community walk audit. So maybe we move that to outdoor spaces rather than in transportation. I'm sure it probably fits both. And then I guess I just had had on there additions, subtractions from the committee. Any thoughts or concerns for transportation?
This is Sue. I think some of the transportation might be addressed when we get down further to updating the website, because there's not only WeCab, there's SmartLink. The VA has a volunteer driver there's SmartLink, which operates out of for Carver and Scott County. The VA has a volunteer driver program. There's if a person meets income eligibility, there is some other programs. So, those programs, I think the harder challenge will be, and there are a couple cabs services that offer out of Waconia. So there is that, but maybe that will come into play if and when we decide in our work plan to work with the city on updating the website with links to various things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many things that just kind of fit in so many different categories. Yep.
This is Jack, related to all of that and so on, and I think this is good. I'm one of the older ones, obviously, but not only are there websites, but we need to know how to get into the website and use the website.
That's true.
That's a very difficult one.
I can't understand what you're saying.
I'm sorry. I said, as an older person, we need to be able to get into these websites and be able to use the website, or as you were suggesting, even find the website or find the map. And I don't know how we teach each other or how we encourage others.
Go ahead, Martha.
And that reminds me of something I think we could really use as a service to older people and et cetera, and that's a tech center for seniors. There's so many questions on the neighborhood digest that a lot of us are members of. And it's not only our community, but other communities. There's every time they put something out there, somebody is talking about how they don't know how to access certain things, or now there's this big discussion going through like 52 neighborhoods around us, including ours, about the media service that we have and its lack of consistency and the high cost and all of that, and what their alternatives are, and how does the senior weigh through all of that to figure out, can we go to a Fire Stick and drop cable, or what do we do? It's just a world of questions for people like ourselves who are trying to make use of a new technology for us. And I think if we look very seriously at creating some kind of a tech center, we certainly have, we go so far as even inviting a senior class in high school. They probably have insights or could volunteers or some people like that to staff it, just for questions, or even bringing your computer in and saying, now, what do I do with this thing? I mean, the library was really good about having that kind of service for people like ours, but it's an access to information. That's at the root of all of this. Like, you feel like you're left out and left, no matter how well you put programs together, if we can't access them or don't know how to access them, then we're still left without that information. So I'd like to recommend that we really make that a recommendation for some type of tech service.
Yeah, we can definitely add that to the work plan as something to look at, is how do we better communicate and then engage and figure out ways, if we are going to rely on extra tech, we can definitely have that conversation on how do we make sure people get to that tech stuff. But
I was just going to, add, we have 6 public, right now it's not 6, but we have 8 public access computers, free Wi-Fi. We have had in the past tech associates, that's exactly what they do. People come in and say, here's my tech problem. But I mean, it's not going to speed up your internet. I mean, that's something out of our control, but how do you access the city's webpage if you don't know how to do that? Or how do I set up a Facebook account? I mean, that's something we're good at doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's great if people know about it. So part of it's we have the service, but communicating so people know how to access it and that it's there. So part of that's getting back to what we put on the website and how we communicate what services are available. But it's an important point. I second the notion that we need a place for senior people to get trained or to learn how to use some of this technology.
This is Jan. I researched the Chanhassen Senior Center, and in their programs brochure, they have what they call Tech Friends Assistance. And I don't know if it's given on a regular basis or a couple times a week, but it's for smartphone, home computer, or laptop tutoring. And a particular person does it. And they meet at the senior center. So it is out there, and we could probably learn what their success is.
So if the committee wouldn't mind, I actually thought maybe we want to skip to social participation as well as communication, because I think that's going to be where a lot of our focus is. And then since we only have about 10 minutes left, then we can come back to the other ones at the next meeting. And again, if there's more to discuss on the communication and social participation, we can definitely bring that back to the next meeting as well. Yes.
And just on the topic of communications itself about the city, another thing that I like about what Chanhassen is doing is their mayor does a newsletter, a periodic newsletter. And it's very helpful in terms of just giving, it's brief, but it hits the highlights of what's happening in the city. I think that would be valuable as we're trying to get information out to the community right now for us to consider maybe asking Deb if she would think about that, because we have the work that Kendra Hall is doing, for instance, is great. And not a lot of us know about that. I'm talking about just talking to my own neighbors who don't know about that. But as we continue to develop programs or ideas, and Kendra takes we've got a communications expert in her, and as she wraps that up kind of like a marketing tool and gets it available for us, then we need to promote the awareness of it and maybe even suggest archiving that kind of information for new people coming in or people who missed the first sessions or however she puts that together. But communication is a big issue, I think, for us to address. Just getting all the neat things that we already have, people don't know about them. They're too busy, I think, to just, in my neighborhood, they're all parents of younger kids pretty much. So, but they do take the responsibility. Our homeowners association tries to connect with what's going on in the city. But it just depends on who's leading that group, how much information is passed along. So,
yes. So just an FYI for the committee, we do have a monthly newsletter that does go out. It is digital, but we have a quarterly printed newsletter that goes and gets directly sent to your mailbox. So I know the printed newsletter will be coming out soon. But if you're interested in signing up for the monthly digital newsletter, that is going to be on the city website, ci.victoria.mn.us. And then about midway through the city news or the city webpage, there's going to be a button with a V on it that says Victoria News, and you'll be able to sign up for that new digital newsletter, and that will come directly into your email inbox.
Did I hear you say there is a newsletter?
There is a printed newsletter that's sent out quarterly.
Haven't seen that one.
It will be coming out soon. Yep.
Okay. Because I was just going to mention, I printed out both the senior citizens newsletter and the program, the Chanhassen Senior Citizen Programs newsletter, plus the Lodge has an events newsletter. And you can pull those right off their website. And everything is listed right there. You don't have to hunt for it. So that's really convenient.
Yes, definitely. So to answer your question, Jack, on how does the printed newsletter come out, we use the zip codes in our mailing, so then it is directly sent to all residents of Victoria. So that's how we use that. And same with the park and recreation programs that gets printed out. We send those directly to the right to your mailbox or PO box, and that comes out also quarterly. So you should have received the spring summer park and recreation program, I believe, a couple weeks ago.
Melissa, do you feel comfortable taking some of these suggestions and adding them to, or incorporating them into these two sections of the work plan?
Absolutely, yes. And there's another one, Chair, if you don't mind me just adding on social participation for senior programming. I think just listening to committee, that may be another one that we want to take a look at. And social or senior programming, could be talking about that tech center or promoting what the library has to offer. I think that's a big help. I do know that Patrick at the library, whether it's Chanhassen's, Victoria's, nearby libraries have a lot of events or programming that definitely, again, that communication aspect, making sure we're promoting and getting the word out for those really helpful programs that the community offers. So definitely can take a look at what we've discussed here today, and then I will kind of remorph the work plan that's on here, and then I'll definitely bring that back to you at the next meeting.
Great. You know, our time is running short. Do you want to comment? I think we can pause at this point on the discussion of the work plan and look forward to your feedback next time. Under other business, we had the item 7.1 about livable communities. I assume that you want to hold that one until next week, our next meeting as well?
You know, I'll just make a brief comment on it because there's not too much to update. We had an introduction meeting, which was great. It just let us know that there is a community challenge grant that is available for government organizations and nonprofits that they help do those, what they call quick action projects, which really communities in the past have used the funding for community garden build-outs, for researching AUD housing, telehealth, bringing items such as blood pressure machines, making those like telehealth kits that they bring to residents of the community, technology teaching programs that could be funded through this grant, ADA sidewalk improvements, bike trail improvements, bench installations. So I just wanted to keep that on your radar. It's not something we could do for 2021, but as we develop more as a committee and we kind of create that work plan, this is definitely something that we can look at doing for 2022. And that is all I had on that one, Chair.
Great, thank you. Any other items of business that the committee members, any committee member would like to bring up at this point?
This is Nancy, and I just want to take a moment to thank Julie and Alyssa for being so generous with the date opportunities for the tour of Bethesda. It was very helpful to have that many choices.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have a conclusion, or is there a time to schedule that?
So I have the survey or the what did I call it? A doodle poll link open until May 10th. So please feel free
Okay.
to sign up for a time that works for you, and I will definitely try and make sure that everyone can be in attendance for that. And I know, Jan, you were struggling with the link, so if anyone else is having issues with the link,
Well,
I'll have it open after the meeting, and we
Excuse
can
me,
sign
I
up.
looked at the link, and my thought was, we were all going to sign up on May 10th, but when I looked at it, there were dates that started May 15th through whatever. So you sign up for an individual time, it's not a group?
It is a group time, yeah. So I just put a bunch of variety options to try and make everyone's schedule work, and then you just click on the ones that work best for you.
Because the 10th didn't come up. The first available was the 15th.
Yeah, I just had by the 10th. Yep, sign up by the 10th.
by
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
And just to clarify, sign up for as many dates as you can make. Don't just sign up for one.
Yes, I put down
And then
7.
Alyssa will review and pick the one that's common for all of us.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, for that clarification.
Great.
Yeah, and if anyone is, again, that link, I'll have my computer up after and we can definitely get you signed up. Because I think it's going to be a great opportunity. I toured Bethesda last summer and it's just a really nice place to see, so.
Looking forward to it. So that concludes all the items of business that we have for this meeting today. Can we have a motion to adjourn at this time?
Can I add one more thing? Excuse me. I know the
Sure.
farmer's market, as well as the car shows, are community gathering events. And I think I had heard that the city might possibly occasionally have a booth or try to have a booth at the farmer's market. I wonder, we as a committee or down the road, as we define more, and I don't even know if this year would be the year, but occasionally, man a little, just sit there for a few hours, senior committee, look for input, let them know what we're doing, and just an awareness as we kind of refine where we're going.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. That's definitely, I know Kendra is looking at getting some of those marketing materials to do some sort of booth this year or even next year, depending. So having that pop-up tent, having that, like the tablecloth, and so staff can sit out there. But if the committee would be interested in doing something like that, that's something that we can take a look at. And then I think another great opportunity with that is figuring out what materials, what brochures, what type of things should be in that booth, specifically since we're talking about things related to printing and getting the website materials and or making sure they're accessible for all. Maybe we need parking maps. So here's a way that we can get parking maps. Here's a map of the city streets in Victoria. So making those recommendations, I think when it comes time, will be a great thing for us to do.
I think it's a great idea, and I would think that we would be handing out information on everything that would appeal to a senior citizen. The city map, the park maps, the whatever, other things we have going on or available, or what's going on at the library that would be interesting to seniors. If we've got tech service, we could get that going. I mean, have those printed out and hand them out. People are needing that information.
Absolutely.
Good idea. Do we, thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn, please? I can't see you folks, so somebody speak up.
This is Jack. I so move.
Thank you, Jack moves. Is there a second?
This is Jan, I second.
And Jan seconds. We'll put the vote. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, the same sign. The motion carries. We'll stand adjourned. Alyssa, we've given you some more work to do. Thank you so much for all your prep, and we'll look forward to the next session.
I look forward to it as well, Chair. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Where are our refrigerator magnets, Alyssa?
Thank you for all the work you've done on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I really spent a lot of time on the computer last night.
Well,
But that's interesting.
I just knew the start time.
Okay.
I thought the adjournment was open-ended.
You can't,
Oh, okay.
they don't work.